Good morning, everyone. It is Tuesday, August 6th. We'll call the Wright County Board of Commissioners to order. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right. First item on the agenda here, we have a number of minutes here from July 23rd. We have 3 different sets there and one from the 24th. We can approve them collectively or individually. I'll stand for any modifications or motions.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve all 4 minutes.
All right, motion by Commissioner Dietrich to approve the minutes collectively.
I'll second that.
Second by Commissioner Holland. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved unanimously. Today's agenda, is there any modifications or corrections to today's agenda? I'll stand for any motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll approve the agenda as presented.
All right, motion by Commissioner Dietrich,
I'll second that.
second by Commissioner Holland. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Agenda approved unanimously. Today's consent agenda. Would anyone like to remove anything from today's consent agenda for further discussion? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda items.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Holland,
Second.
second by Commissioner Shane to approve today's consent agenda as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Consent agenda approved unanimously. Now on to the 9:05. We're running a couple minutes ahead here, but Chad's going to make his way up here to schedule a public hearing for Tuesday, September 10th for the local options sales tax update.
Yes. Good morning. Yes, this is to schedule a public hearing that we discussed at the committee of the whole. This is just a suggested time, so we'll entertain other openings if it doesn't fit your schedules.
So I'm going to move it to 9:45. We have a couple other public hearings that day as well, so
Okay.
I'm going to sandwich that one in the middle. So I would be asking for the board to make a motion to set a public hearing on Tuesday, September 10th at 9:45 a.m. in this room for the public hearing on the local option sales tax.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Commissioner Holland,
Second.
second by Commissioner Dietrich. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.
9:08. Matt is making his way up here. He has a good number of items for us here. You saved them all up for one time, right?
Yeah. All the fun ones today. Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. My first item is to adopt the order initiating repair proceedings for County Ditch number 38 under Minnesota Statute 103E 705. And just for a little context, this is the ditch in Montrose that runs under 12 High Estates. So obviously, a big portion of this is to realign the ditch so it's no longer situated underneath the trailer court. So that's essentially what you're approving in this one is ordering a repair and approving the realignment of this ditch system.
Mr. Chair, I'll make that motion to approve.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Dietrich,
I'll second.
second by Commissioner Holland to initiate the repair proceedings on County Ditch 38. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, this is a roll call vote, and just for the record, it's clear, under these items from Matt today, we are acting in our capacity as the Drainage Authority for CD 38.
Thank you. At this point, there's no other discussion. Roll call vote. Commissioner Shane?
Aye.
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 Resolution, or not resolution, vote is unanimous on the repair proceedings for County Ditch 38. All right.
Thank you. All right, the second item is to schedule a public hearing on the repair report for County Ditch number 38. This is pursuant to Minnesota Statute 103E 701, 705, and 715, just due to the realignment and some of the other procedural stuff that needs to happen. So I had 3 dates. 2 of the dates are kind of all day. The other one is September 10th. The engineer is only available from 1 to 3 p.m. on that date. So,
Okay, so we'd be looking to do it as a separate Drainage Authority public hearing outside of the county board meeting, which is, all right, do we want to stay with the Tuesday, September 10th and doing it from at that 1 o'clock day, or is there?
So don't we have budget? Oh, you're thinking 1 o'clock. What was the other day?
September 10th? I don't think we. September, not
Yeah, but
August.
was there any other, what? I think-
Something in the morning.
September 16th, he's available all day, and September 19th, he's available all day. September 10th wasn't an all day. He's just available from that 1 to 3 window.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I'm good on the 16th all day, so
Yeah, 16th works.
Let me see. All right, so we're looking to do September 16th at
he's available all day. So you want to do a morning?
Fair play. Or evening, afternoon, I mean.
either way.
Do we do those in the evening? What
I
ditch is
did-
it? What district?
That'd be Mike's district.
Okay, well,
Otherwise, do you want to even just do later afternoon? You want
3:30, 4.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, for purposes of scheduling, if you're going to do the afternoon, I'd recommend a 1 o'clock start. There is quite a bit of material that's probably going to be covered by the engineer as part of this. And CD 38 has been going on with this issue since before I started with the county 14 years ago. So we're finally at the point of fixing this long-term issue. So I'm guessing there'll be extensive discussion about it.
I think 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock would be good on September 16th.
Get off work at noon.
That works for me. September 16th. So I'll entertain a motion to set a public hearing on the repair report for County Ditch 38, recommended date of September 16th at 1 o'clock. I'll stand for a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Commissioner Holland.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Shane to set a public hearing on the repair report for County Ditch 38 for September 16th at 1 o'clock.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Just for further discussion, I'm sorry. Honestly, I mean, we've had the ditch meetings in the evening before, and I'm just in consideration with Commissioner Ketchmark that he's not here right now. I know that that is something he would push for, just out of respect for him. I think, even just going a little bit later at 3 o'clock, it gives us enough time and maybe opportunity for those that want to attend. That's just my thought. I know there's a motion and a second, but
You can, I will just note that anything that goes past 4:30 on that particular day, as it is my short season that I actually officiate high school football, I do already have myself a JV game already scheduled for September 16th in the evening that night at that time, so,
sure.
yep.
I would say that I too was concerned about that, but I think if people can get off, they can work a half a day and get off at noon to be here at 1, especially if it's going to be a long meeting. I think that's doable.
I think, like I said, if you wanted to move it back a little bit later, I'd be fine with it. But otherwise, if you want to go in that, I just would be having to depart somewhere around that.
So what would be a
4:30 hour.
happy medium? 2:30?
Depends on the amount of information. I do know that some of these repair reports, the engineering side of it, we haven't done any of them here in the last 12 months. We haven't had any extensive repair reports. Some of the repair reports that they come through, the presentations themselves are upwards of an hour, depending on the public comment aspect of it and the discussion pieces. The meeting itself could lend itself to be upwards of 3 hours. 3 hours. Generally, the public hearing aspect of this meeting probably wouldn't take place for public comment till much closer to the 2 o'clock hour. If we want to notice that the informational part will start at 1 and the public hearing part would start at 2, I would be okay with letting people know that we would hold out to do any public comment till 2, but we'll start the proceedings on the engineering report at 1. That would probably be a better methodology for us to go about it.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, we could accommodate that. As far as going later, we do have to accommodate also the schedule of our engineer, and his schedule he did not give us any availability into the evening that day.
Okay. Thank you.
I'll amend my motion that we make the public hearing portion of it at 2 p.m.
All right, so the motion by Commissioner Holland
Second.
amended by Commissioner Shane. So just the clarity of it, we are setting a Drainage Authority meeting for the presentation of the repair report at 1 o'clock with a public hearing to follow at 2 p.m. on September 16th in this room regarding the repair report on County Ditch 38. All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimous. All right.
Awesome. So item number 3 is to solicit sealed bids for repairs / realignment of County Ditch 38. So just some clarification from item number 2. Item number 2, at the public hearing, you'd be determined if you're moving forward with repairs. This would just allow you to seek bids so that those bids are available to you when we hold the public hearing on September 16th at 2 p.m. So everyone in attendance would know the exact costs instead of engineering estimates on the repairs. So.
I'll make the motion. We solicit sealed bids for the repairs of County Ditch 38.
All right, motion by Commissioner Holland.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Shane to solicit sealed bids for repair realignment for County Ditch 38. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimous.
All right, awesome. Well, last one. To appoint H2O Reviewers LLC to complete a redetermination of benefits on County Ditch number 17 pursuant to Minnesota Statute 103E.305. So this is a procedural step to appoint the viewers. The viewers actually have to come and sign a viewer's oath. So that would be at a later meeting date. But this would be to approve their preliminary estimates for this work. It's at $23,089 to complete a redetermination of benefits on County Ditch number 17. We did receive landowner requests for this and requests for repairs this year also from landowners. So it's one that Tina and I have been working on, receiving calls on. So there's definitely landowner support for this process.
All right. Any discussion? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
All right, motion by Commissioner Dietrich.
I'll second that.
Second by Commissioner Holland to appoint H2O reviewers as the, to complete a redetermination of benefits on County Ditch 17. And no other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimous.
Thank you.
All right, we're a little bit early for our appeal hearing at 9:35, so we're going to go down to items for consideration. We have one here to set a public hearing to consider the property tax abatement for Monticello Hospitality LLC. And at this time, we have a date targeted. Okay, sorry. Again, we have a targeted date of August 20th at 9:30 a.m. Is right during the county board meeting, so
Yep.
everybody's schedule should accommodate that. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to set said public hearing.
I'll make that motion to set the public on August 20th at 9:30 during the regular board meeting.
All right, motion by Commissioner Shane.
I'll second that.
Second by Commissioner Holland to schedule a public hearing for the property tax abatement for Monticello Hospitality Group at August 20th at 9:30 a.m. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. All right, still moving down here. We have to set the agenda for the August 13th workshop. Listed items are in there. This right here is more of a no action needed. It's more for consensus of the group that the items are on there and if whether there's any additions necessary.
Mr. Chair, I have no additions to
All
that. So I'll recommend approving the agenda for the workshop.
All right.
I'll second that.
All right, so motion by Commissioner Dietrich, second by Commissioner Holland to approve the August 13th workshop agenda. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, motion passes unanimously. And we're still moving down here. So the next item would be the appointing of an interim administrator here in Wright County. The ongoing discussions that we've had and working with Greg here on a contract to get us through the interim period of time while we determine our next steps forward for the organization here. I feel that the conversations have gone well, and we have finally now, after a delay last week on just some contract items, we are able to come forward here with one that I believe we can execute.
I make a motion to adopt the resolution appointing Greg Kreiser as interim Wright County Administrator.
Second?
We have a motion by Commissioner Holland, second by Commissioner Shane, on the resolution appointing Greg Kreiser as the interim Wright County Administrator. All right. Any discussion? Hearing none. Resolution, roll call vote. Aye.
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 All right. Resolution passes unanimously. And now we are moving on to the fourth item on items for consideration, since we're still running quite far ahead here, is approve a deviation from the county rules, policies, and procedures for the county attorney's office to obtain a county administrator's authorization through the assistant county administrator who will be acting independently as the interim administrator. This is a memo of understanding, just making sure that it removes any conflicts of interest between Greg's role as the civil division chief and that of the county administrator, and any type of conflicts that may or could arise between the county attorney's office and the central administration of the county. I don't know if you have any comments on that, Mr. Lutz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Good morning. My office is pretty simple, other than my personnel budget, which is quite high, having 17 attorneys when we're fully staffed. But outside of that, my overall budget is about 250 grand, something like that. The only times I really need to go, given, especially with the autonomy of my office, the only times I need to go to the administrator for approval historically in my time as county attorney is when I need to seek permission or authority to hire at above the 12%. Just with given how the market is and with salaries, I just had to do it for a criminal attorney who I just met with, who's starting September 9th. Outside of that, because of the board's involvement in the budgetary process, there's not many opportunities for conflict. But when this proposal came to light, it was my idea, jointly in speaking with, Clay and Mark, to seek their approval for things like that outside of Mr. Kreiser being involved. So that's my proposal to avoid any conflict of interest.
All right. I appreciate that. I feel that it was well vetted on all sides of it. I think it is probably a good practice just for the very few times that it may happen. At least we have a procedure when or if it would ever arrive. So with that, we'd be asking the board to approve this memo of understanding between the administration and county board and the county attorney's office on any potential conflicts of interest regarding administration in the county attorney's office.
So moved.
I'll
Motion
second.
by Commissioner Shane, second by Commissioner Holland.
Chairman, I want to thank you for working with us and then also sharing Greg with us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And maybe just
Yes.
to comment on that briefly, Mr. Kreiser's role has evolved over the years where he's largely filled this role. I mean, he goes to so many meetings and committee meetings with the board and has offered, legal advice to the board for so many years. When I was approached about this opportunity, I wanted to be a good partner to the commissioners, but I also recognize that it's a role that Mr. Kreiser has already filled in some aspects, and I think it will be an easy transition for him. And I've had great discussions with Mr. Kreiser just outlining, because he's so valuable to my office in his role and does things that no one else can do right now in my office. And we're talking about that, diversifying and getting other people up to speed. But we've had great conversations and have identified the things that he's going to keep within my office that, I think will work well for both the Board of Commissioners, the county as a whole, and my office. So I appreciate the thanks, though.
Well said. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. We had a motion and we have a second. Any other comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Welcome on board, Greg.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I appreciate all the kind comments today. And I look forward to working with the board as we move through this transition period and find a permanent county administrator.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. Well, moving on here, we are going on to the committee recommendations here since we're still running about 15 minutes ahead. We have the revisers recommendation from July 23rd. The first one was the consensus of the committee to hold a public hearing on September 10th at 9:30 regarding ordinance amendment 24-5 pertaining to the solid waste ordinance. Is there any discussion or comments regarding setting this public hearing? All right. I'll entertain a motion to set a public hearing for September 10th at 9:30 a.m. Regarding ordinance amendment 24-5.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Commissioner Holland.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Shane. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
With the recommendations, also, it was those changes to being made, do those have to be adopted first and then the public hearing, or how is that?
So we're not adopting the changes. Right now, the recommendation is to put the publication of the ordinances as presented in the recommendations, and then any proposed changes would be, if there was any, would be
During the
post the public hearing.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Yep.
Just for clarity.
All right. So with that, although we can entertain if there was some imminent changes you'd like to make now prior to publication, we can have that discussion now. Because generally if there was ones, we'd want to have it published as the changes out there for the most transparency. So if you have some comments that you'd like to make currently, we can certainly take them.
No, actually, this is, a lot of hard work has been put into this, so I'll take that recommendation to set the public hearing and move those forward.
All right. So do we have a motion then to set the public hearing for September 10th?
Yeah, I think the motion is second, wasn't it?
Did-
I'll second it.
All right. Do we have a motion a second? That's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did. I think
Yes,
we did. Sorry. After your comments, I kind of lost track of where we're at. Pardon me. All right. So we have a motion. We have a second to set the public hearing for September 10th at 9:30 a.m. regarding ordinance amendment 24-5 regarding solid waste. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. All right. The next one was the recommendation was to approve the recommendations of the consensus of the committee to make the following modifications to the tobacco ordinance 24-3. These recommendations then will go out to the publication, which we will hopefully be putting out within the next week for the public hearing that will be taking place on September 12th at 1 p.m.
Yes, Mr. Chair, members of the board, on ordinance number 24-3, this has been an ongoing discussion for, I want to say, the last 4 to 5 months through the cannabis work group. We've been dealing with it in staff internally, trying to finish up and make some finishing touches onto this ordinance. At the last board meeting, we scheduled the public hearing for September 12th. We're planning to keep that date. The statute requires us to give 30 days mailed notice to all license holders, so we're still on track to meet that mailing and notice deadline. We just simply put this through the advisors work group to give an update formally to the board as to where things are at. There have been some additional revisions that I think still keep with what we're going on here, with what the recommendations were, but just some more general ordinance cleanup to try to get us the best final product we can. It may be worthwhile to have another revisers committee before the 12th, but at this point in time, I think we are at the 5-yard line, ready to go here.
Greg, I appreciate that. I mean, there's so much that's coming at us fast and furious with this, and there's no way we're going to be able to hold out and make all the changes at once. We'll probably have to have another ordinance amendment before we get the final product on it. There's just so many aspects to take into consideration of it.
Yeah.
So,
Mr. Chair, members of the board, staff is finalizing it. We're going to hopefully have it finished here very soon. And then any further changes from that, we'll document any amendments after that at the public hearing.
all right. And with that, look for a recommendation or a motion to set that public hearing. Or not, that's not set that public hearing, I'm sorry. The public hearing's already been set for September 12th. I'm looking to approve the modified changes for publication. All right.
So moved.
All right, motion by Commissioner Shane,
I'll second.
second by Commissioner Holland to approve the changes for publication on the tobacco ordinance 24-3. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, motion passes unanimously. All right. Now we have the, what time are we at, 9:25? So we can get the, approve the recommendations from the committee of the whole regarding drainage. There's quite a different pieces here. I'm not going to read through all of them. We've discussed them at quite length, as I think we just shy of about a four-hour meeting to go through all the different aspects of the ditches. I will say that it was a very good, very robust conversation. I think what we're coming out here with recommendations are good for finance, good for taxpayer services. This will clean things up for them in terms of a process and not leaving them operating in the gray too much as to what is the desire of the board and what is in the best interest of the county ditches and the citizens that are on them. So,
Yeah, Chairman Betch, I do want to thank the staff. That was a long, a lot of good discussions and a lot of hard decisions that the ditch people have to know that they didn't come easy. But yes, thanks to the staff for bringing forward all those small pieces to make them whole. Appreciate all the hard work.
Mr. Chair?
yes.
I also we can wait for a motion in a second.
Either way,
but
we can have a discussion
I just
before or after.
just my comment, I had to leave early to go to a different meeting, and it was already a very good discussion going on. So just my piece in this is I know it's probably right now the only process that we have that makes sense with the ditches, but using the general fund money to pay for the work and on the ditches and all of that, and then assessing that over a 15-year period at max for a lot of property owners. It's just difficult for me to see that we're taxing people for a ditch project that they might not have any. Might not be impacting them because you're using general tax dollars to pay for those repairs. So that's just my only concern. I know it was well discussed. I've looked through the information and followed up. I think one of the options that you guys had recommended moving forward is if there was any way to legislatively offer different options for ditch entities for funding. Is that correct?
Yeah, we had so what I will say that, okay, the first year, we're not recouping any interest payments. Anything after that, we're recouping equal, pretty close to 1-to-1 on when we would get investment income on that general fund money. So there's no loss after year one. It would have been more cost ineffective for us if we would have had to do an entirely additional mailing if we were going to assess them in the first year. So that's where we chose not to go.
Yeah,
that
I
aspect.
understand. I
Yeah.
appreciate
And we also
the
look-
assessing and the timeframes that were changed. I agree with that. I'm just saying we're still moving general funds over to pay for those initially. And at max, it will be 15 years before that is all paid back with interest. I get that.
The 15 years is the exception. So the majority, the vast majority of them are paying it in the first 5 years. Only in a very small circumstances where you'll be having them amateurized out to 15 years. And to our point is that we are, as you see here, at the 5% interest, which is pretty close to what our investment income yields. In some cases less, some cases more, depending on the length of time that it is tied up. The other point to it being is that the other two options were either to pre-assess the ditches, but in order to do that, that was going to, because there has been neglect on the ditches for so many decades, it would have been very cost prohibitive for us to assess all the ditches, tens of thousands of dollars, when we wouldn't be able to capably do the work in some cases for upwards of a decade. That wouldn't be very palatable either. The other option was to go into bonding. And if we went into bonding, that would preclude any type of prepayment on it. And it would tie landowners into a amateurized schedule and paying interest interest that they may not be interested in. Legislation does not allow us to go into a line of credit, which probably would have been the best route. I think that is discussions that we need to have at the legislature and being able to get some changes that would allow us to do a line of credit, and therefore we could just charge whatever interest was on our line of credit, and that would free up the general fund money. But in the short term, for the lack of other options, that's the only option we have.
Understood.
And Chairman Vetch, we mirrored it to what we do with our septics. With loaning out for the septics, we mirrored a lot of that, the same verbiage and.
But that's state money. That's not, that we're taxing people to help pay for that. So that's a different funding source.
But it's still, I wish you would have been there because it was a lot of good conversation.
Right, I understand that.
Yeah.
All right. So at this point, do we have a motion to approve the recommendations?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Commissioner Holland.
Second?
Second by Commissioner Shane to approve the Committee of the Whole Drainage Authority July 24th recommendations. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. All right, now we are coming close here on our 9:35 appeal hearing. So at this time, Shirley here will call forward. Let's see here, do I have the individual here? We have an appeal hearing on tobacco ordinance violation. Staff, do you have any comments on that before we move into that? Greg?
Mr. Chair, at this point in time, staff would just recommend that you, I guess, hold the public hearing, the appeal. I believe the person who filed the appeal may be here, so we can hear from them at this point in time. And the materials are in the staff report, the agenda, and I guess afterwards, maybe Public Health can give comments if they want to as to what happened in response.
All right. At this time, is the named individual present to the public hearing regarding the tobacco ordinance violation?
If you could come up to the
Forward,
microphone.
please state your name. Yep, up here to the podium right there where the microphone is, and please state your name.
My name is Robert Joseph Hennett. So all three are sixes.
All right. All right, Robert, if you want to explain to us your appeal here and see what we can do to help you.
Okay. The reason why I appeal is because, when I first started this job, I'm not new to selling tobacco in a gas station. Back in 2018, I did it for Fleet Farm with no problem. So as I started working, I seen the 3 officers before the occasion occurred. They looked at me weird. I ain't gonna lie, I've been targeted so many times. And throughout the weeks, they would just be there. I get certain type of looks. And then when the time has come when they send the kid over is when my coworker asked me to switch, and just apparent out of nowhere, out the blue, he came. And I always ID. It don't matter what age, how you feel, I always ID. My manager always tell me ID them. So I ID everybody, and there's been no type of problems like this before, especially in IDing in the machine, because I know the machine is supposed to be 100% accuracy on IDs. I'm kind of invested in IT myself. And when this child has came, I checked the ID, I put the digits in. It was saying information that doesn't go for everybody else on the ID. So I thought it was a little bit weird. I did the math in my head over and over and over and over. I looked him in the eyes. He looked pretty nervous. And I know, like, in my gut feeling, like, okay, like, he's probably, but nowadays in this age, because of food and products we use, it don't matter how old you look or whatnot. They can look young from, and an old appearance. People can look young at a old age. So that's the reason why I ID everybody. And so I, did the math in my head, and I was just off by 1 year, And as he bought the tobacco and he asked for a receipt, I gave him the receipt, and I'm still doing the math in my head over and over, over and over and over and over. Then I see him going right to left, like as if, they was on the right side and they moved to the left side. And so I was just being very vigilant. And 3 days after that, I completed my tobacco training course because I was still in training, especially as assistant manager. So I was doing everything at once. I was, determined to, do better in my life and stuff like that. But, being targeted so much, like I have trauma and stuff like that, but I don't let it get to me. But, it's just, ever since that, I just said, coworker, I'm just, finna just head out for today because I'm not feeling it. I'm not feeling myself. It's just draining and stuff like that. And he come to me, he was like, it been 5 months for him and nothing like this has occurred. So then and there, I just started putting 1 and 2 together. I'm like, okay. And then the officer, he would come trying to speak to me because I think I know, like, deep in his soul, he felt guilty of what had happened because, like, the way he tried to interact with me, and every time I move out the cashier, like, he would just wait for me to come on the cashier to spread up a conversation because I think, on his side of the story too, like, he knows, like, you can tell if somebody's in trauma and been through a lot. So I'm not really asking for much, but I'm just asking for true, honest judgment,
So, Mr. Henna?
Yeah.
So my first question to you, were you presented an identification?
Yeah, I checked the identification.
Okay, and you scanned it and it didn't scan?
No.
You never scanned it, you just you did it just manually reviewed the dates?
No, I scanned it like 3 times and then...
It didn't register?
No, but then I tried to tap it manually on the date of the number. It didn't. It did the same thing. It does. Okay, because like underage people, when I scan it or put it manually, or I could tell, okay, they're very young from this 2004, 2005, or 2006. It will say underage or something like that. And it was just kind of off to me because like his birthday month was close to mine. So I was just trying to add up in my head. So.
And Mr. Hanna, I can sympathize with you. Be lucky that the incident here was with tobacco and not of another substance, because the penalties and such are much greater than that. But you did admit to the fact that you were given an identification. It is a legal identification. You did scan it into. For whatever reason, the math didn't come out right. It didn't scan right. But at the end of the day, the onus is on you as a worker of an establishment that does hold a tobacco license in making sure that age compliance is met. And that was failed. I do believe the establishment has a number of different banners that put the year and date on it that you need to be for the sale of tobacco. So those things were readily available, whether recognized or not. I think in the future, they use this as a learning experience for yourself. This is nothing personal against you. This is just the same thing that we hold everybody in the county to from a compliance level perspective. When selling tobacco products in Wright County, you need to do an age verification and you need to make sure that they are of age 21 when making that sale. So with that, I appreciate your comments. Unfortunately, I don't have any articulable evidence that would say that there was any wrongdoing on our part or any type of negligence by the ones doing the compliance check that would articulate otherwise. Members, do you have any comments? Otherwise, do you have any other, Mr. Henna, any further comments yourself? If there's no other ones, with that, I would be at this point entertaining a motion by the board to uphold the violation in the upholding the fine of $100. I appreciate you taking the time and learning the system and coming in here and questioning it and bringing forward your situation. Like I said, I do sympathize with you, but unfortunately, in order for me to render a different decision other than what is recommended here in terms of the fine, there would have to be some sort of articulable evidence that there was some wrongdoing on our part in issuing you said fine. All right. With that, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I wanted to thank Robert for coming in here. It's not easy coming in and giving his scenario what happened, so I appreciate that. I'll go ahead and make the motion to go with the recommendation against the tobacco ordinance violation.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Shane, second by Commissioner Holland. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Recommendation passes unanimously. All right, now we'll put on our Health and Human Services hat as we move into our Health and Human Services portion of the meeting. At this time, our first item on the agenda would be to accept the Health and Human Services consent agenda. At this time, I'll stand for a motion to approve the Health and Human Services consent agenda.
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Shane, second by Commissioner Holland. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Recommendation approved unanimously. Now we have the first timed agenda item, Resolution 2408 to adopt the July 2024 donations.
Yes,
Jamie,
Board,
do you have any comments?
I ask that you, and I think the two of the donations were discussed here at the last board meeting, and we're just asking that you approve by resolution these donations.
All right.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
All right, thank you to the, we have a motion by Commissioner Holland, second by Commissioner Shane. Thank you for the wonderful donations that'll serve the citizens of the county well in the operations within Health and Human Services.
Absolutely.
All right. Any other discussion? And that is a resolution vote. Commissioner Holland?
Aye.
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 Aye. Resolution passes unanimously. Now moving on to the second item, the resolution 2409 proclaiming August 24 as Child Support Awareness Month.
Yes, thank you. And if with an opportunity, I'd like to invite Kim Johnson and Karen Popkin up just to give you a brief overview of where we are sitting in child support these days. If you didn't know, I started out in 1992 as a child support officer, and it's always been near and dear to my heart.
I too started out as a child support officer, ironically enough. Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Every year, the governor proclaims August as Child Support Awareness Month. I'd like to take a moment to recognize our child support staff. In 2023, they opened 532 cases, collected $13,396,092, and had a cost effectiveness rate of $6.14. This is an amazing group who does amazing work for the families of Wright County. I'm here today to ask the board to adopt the governor's proclamation declaring August as Child Support Awareness Month. Any questions?
Well, we've always known that our child support workers here in Wright County do a fantastic job. You are above the top 1%, I would almost say, in the county in terms for the work that they do and the collection levels that they do. So we can't thank them enough for the diligence and the efficiency that you do the work here for the citizens of Wright County.
Thank you. I remember before we were collecting $1 million a month, we're like, only if we could collect $1 million a month. And now we're at over 13 million for the year consistently for years in a row. So it's very exciting. They do amazing work. And what that does for the families of Wright County is priceless.
That's great.
So with that, I'll entertain a motion to designate August 24 as Child Support Awareness Month in Wright County.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Motion by Commissioner Shane, second by Commissioner Holland. Any further discussion?
It's a resolution.
Resolution, Commissioner Dietrich.
Aye.
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 Resolution passes unanimously. Director's comments.
Yes, this is kind of the grab bag portion, I guess, of the agenda. I just have a couple of announcements. One would be that we're holding our foster care picnic on August 14th at BB Lake from 5 to 7:30. You are all cordially invited to join. If you'd like to join us at BB Lake on that day, just let me know and I will give your head count to our foster care staff. Our county fair update. Oh, I should have that in front of me. I think you have it in your packet as well. Actually, I'm not seeing it. We had a great county fair. I believe you have the numbers with you there. We had folks from social services and from public health. I read a lot of comments from young families and mothers specifically about having a place to bring their child for either, breastfeeding the child or changing them during the fair. That's always just a huge win-win for everybody, and that's always been very well received. And we had lots of people visiting our tables to get out the good news about what Health and Human Services does in Wright County. So that was a great county fair. I didn't make it this year and I missed it, so I hope to make it next year. I did want to mention about our, kind of in the note of what we just witnessed as well, our alcohol compliance measures. I think recently we had folks from public health and law enforcement going out to do alcohol compliance. Not great results. We had Sheriff Eric Larson and Rachel Nelson from Public Health conducted alcohol and compliance checks to prevent youth access to alcohol and tobacco. To date, in 2024, Wright County has had 11 alcohol establishments fail and 17 tobacco businesses fail, including rechecks. We found many tobacco businesses were negligent in checking IDs, as well as both tobacco and alcohol establishments not having the proper training to read an ID. We're hopeful that by providing both civil and criminal citations, along with providing alcohol sales training, we can reduce the failures and have a better outcome for next year. So as you can see, this is kind of one of those areas I think that kind of dips and swings, and we're in a process right now where we have a lot of failures, and we're hoping to remedy that in the near future.
Jamie, I appreciate you bringing that up, and I'm going to use this as my chance to make my 2 cents conversation piece on it. I really wish that alcohol compliance checks were in the same line of a penalty as that of tobacco. I think they're largely egregiously charged. Tobacco, or alcohol compliance checks is a gross misdemeanor. And a tobacco violation is an administrative penalty of $100. Miles apart. And the sad thing about it is both of these penalties are people that are working, that are trying to better their lives, and a lot of times they're college students, and that gross misdemeanor is actually forcing individuals to have to change their lives. They may have been working as a bartender or a server and going to college and trying to be a nurse or a teacher, but because of that compliance check, they now have to change their life career. I really hope that we look at it from a prosecuting level and from a legislative level on how we go forward with charging those, because I don't think that the intent of those individuals was to sell to minors and to be able to intoxicate youth. I think it is a penalty necessary. Yes. Is the penalty that's prescribed by the state correct? No, at least from an alcohol perspective. I think that a penalty more in line with tobacco is more necessary, especially on a first offense. But right now it's egregious. I've seen way too many people in the industry that have got greatly harmed because of these compliance checks and because of the penalty that the state levies on these alcohol compliance checks. I'm using this opportunity once again to sympathize with them, because most of the time these are individuals that are trying to better their life and are now getting kicked even further down. So,
And Chairman Betch, yeah, and it doesn't mirror with the cannabis. The cannabis is a petty misdemeanor, I think. It's underage.
Thank you, and I don't disagree. I think Sarah would like to make one clarification.
I just want to clarify for the record that it was 17 alcohol failures and 12 tobacco failures to date. So we've actually seen much more alcohol sales to minors. And some of the sales, the youth that we're using are 18. So I think it's a concern, and we need to do, we're committed to doing the education, right? And doing the sales training with all of our volunteer, for our events, all of our businesses in the county, because there's a real risk.
Right, so I don't disagree with what you said, Chair. Because I think from our point of view, from Health and Human Services, we want to be more of an educator and, making sure this doesn't happen in the future. And potentially there is right now kind of a unbalance of where that penalty falls. So I don't think we're into it for the penalty reasons. I think we're really here to make things better for our youth, and so we don't have tragic accidents or something that would befall our youth in the future. But I certainly understand where you're coming from.
I just am going to use every chance I can to
Yep.
advocate for change on
in the
that law.
minutes.
Because right now you can go and steal $500 for Target and get a far less penalty than you would be selling one can of beer accidentally as a bartender or a server at a busy moment.
Right.
And to me, that's injustice at a great level. So that's got to change. I've seen way too many lives damaged because they're trying to do the right thing and they made an innocent mistake. Most people don't work a job where they can just get stung and get a gross misdemeanor at a snap of a finger. These are not high-paying jobs. These are largely college-age individuals that are working their way to get to a better career, and more often than not, because of situations like this, we have 17 individuals that may have to find different career paths for their future. They maybe it would have been good social workers, good nurses, or good teachers, but they may have to look at a different path because of that.
Again, I don't disagree, and I'm familiar with several situations like that myself. The next item we have is a letter of recommendation from our Health and Human Services Advisory Committee. We call it HSAC. There's a subcommittee, a housing subcommittee. This recommendation to hire a housing coordinator is not to circumvent anything the county is doing as far as positions. Health and Human Services does have this position on our request list coming forward, so it'd go through all the regular, approvals or denials as the board sees fit coming forward. However, our housing committee, and along with HSAC, did feel it was important, and this is the venue for them to, because they exist in order to make recommendations to the board and provide the board insight. So this is a recommendation coming from that group for the board to consider hiring a housing person for Health and Human Services. We are looking at some funding potentially through a PATH grant through our Adult Mental Health Initiative, and this will be all discussed, I believe, later this week on the 8th. Commissioner Holland sits on both the Housing Committee and HSAC and is familiar with this. The committee has people on it that are community members, providers for things like mental health services, and we've had a lot of information coming forward from different nonprofits also that work with people that are homeless and trying to keep people in their homes. So just please accept this letter of recommendation from where it comes, which is a heartfelt request to help support our homeless people in Wright County. And then finally, some not so happy news, and there's a funeral today at 10:30 for Larry DeMars. He was a longtime employee with Wright County Health and Human Services. He was our accounting supervisor for, I believe, going on 40 years. And he was just a wonderful man who just advanced all kinds of things. He was also our technology person. He was the person who first introduced OnBase, I believe, to the county way back when it was just going to be something that was working in our eligibility area. I remember his comment, "We want the Cadillac," and at the time, that was our Cadillac vehicle, and the board, of course, listened to all the arguments but all the information coming from Health and Human Services and from IT and from all the other places, and as you can see, it's kind of taken over the county at this point. So from, I think, staff that have been here for a long time, you can see things many, many years later that keep advancing it. But Larry has a family in Maple Lake. His wife, Kathy, also used to work for Health and Human Services in our licensing area, and we're just really sad to have to say goodbye to Larry today. That's all I have.
Thank you, Jamie. All right, moving on to our 9:45 item. We have Planning and Zoning adopt resolution to enter into a Minnesota Clean Waters Partnership Project Implementation Loan Program. Jacob.
Yes, good morning, commissioners. So there will be a change. So our previous clean water agreements have been a 10-year, 3% loan. We have been informed now by the Clean Water Partnership that Wright County will be charged 1.5% interest going forward. So we're going to have to adjust our rate. That's why I'm speaking here today, to get that in line with what we need to make sure that we're not losing money again, and to make sure that we're accounting for staff time and staff expenses for this program. We did get approved for $500,000. Again, it's a 7-year loan. Staff has determined that, well, we cannot charge more than 8.5%. That's the prime rate. That's the rule. If we go to charge our current 3%, our interest revenue would be $30,000. Staff made a recommendation that we should charge 5.5% to make what we were making prior at $82,000. Does that make any sense? Okay. So the staff recommendation was at 5.5%, but we can also discuss, if you don't want to be in that same range of what we were doing in that realm on our end and staff time and revenue, we can adjust that. It would be about $10,000 less in revenue if we went to 5%, and $20,000 if we went to 4.5%.
So at 5.5, that covers our costs.
It would be the same as the last loan, the 10-year, 3%. Now in this 7-year space, it would be 5.5%, with the current rates at 8.5 and mortgage rates at 6.5. So we're still low interest.
Yeah, you aren't going to get any personal loan anywhere close to that. So. It's more of a budgetary question here when you look at it. If you went anything less than the 5.5, you'd have to reduce a revenue interest line to accommodate that. Otherwise, to staying with the recommendation, staff's bringing this forward with trying to keep that revenue line within the budget study, and that's hence their recommendation of 5.5%.
Yep. So it'd be a 7-year, 5.5 instead of 10.3. Yep.
I'll make the motion to accept that.
All right. Motion by Commissioner Holland.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Shane to approve the modification to the interest of 5.5% over a 7-year period for the septic loan program going forward. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Oh, was it? Oh, you're right. Resolution vote. All right, Commissioner Shane.
Aye.
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 Motion approved unanimously. All right, thank you. See, Barry's on there today. All right, now we're on to the 9:50. We're a little behind here. We have the review of the 2023 audit. Finance is making their way up here, as well as Clifton Larson Allen staff. Oh, you're giving it to the mystery guest.
I'll put it in his office.
I know, we'll put it in his office.
I think
I like paper.
Thank you.
Oh, that's right. I
I'll
already
take
have
just the
this one,
top
right?
sheet then.
I was like,
Thank you, Heather.
Morning, Chairman, Commissioners. I'm going to have Kristen start first. Okay. Good morning. I do have Eric, my manager on the audit. He is online listening in. He was unable to make it today, but I just wanted to let you know he is online in case we have any questions for him as well. So today we will go over required communications, internal control, single audit, Minnesota legal compliance, financial results, and then other items. So the first item here on page 3 is, the first bullet is that we do have a separate communication that we are required to give to governance as part of audit standards. So that's the 5-page letter that Heather just handed out, very boilerplate. If you ever have questions on it, let us know. I won't go over it and bore you today. The other thing to note on this page is that you were given an unmodified or clean opinion on the financial statement. So that is the best you can get. So on page 4, here's the internal controls section. So we are required by audit standards to look at your controls in place as a county and make sure that everything is operating correctly. And if something isn't, there's different levels of deficiencies. Some do have to be in writing. So that's the next pages here we'll talk about. There are other ones that are just orally communicated during the audit that go to management just to correct, more like a slap on the hand. But the first type here is material weakness. So these are in writing and they are material in nature. So as you can see here, there's a reasonable possibility that a material misstatement would not be prevented or detected and corrected on a timely basis. So there were 2 items this year noted. The first was adjusting journal entries during fieldwork. With the transition to the new general ledger system, Oracle, some things came up during that. So we helped get the finance team through that and make those adjustments. And then the other item was also due to the transition, just the year-end cash reconciliation to make sure everything was reconciled at year-end. On the next page, this is the other type of internal control deficiency that's in writing. So still, like I said, required to be in writing, but just less severe. None of these types were noted. So overall, great job on those. On page 6, this talks about the single audit. So since you spend over $750,000, you are required to have a single audit, and we are required to test 40% of your federal expenditures each year. So the 2 programs we tested this year were ARPA, or the COVID-19 Corona State and Local Fiscal Recovery Funds, as well as medical assistance, or MA for short. No material weaknesses in those programs. And we did find one significant deficiency in ARPA. So that was around suspension and debarment. And the check was done, but it was not, the date that it was verified was not kept on file. So just a little background on that. Before entering into contracts, federal contracts, you are required for any over $25,000 to look at a SAM.gov website to make sure that the vendor isn't suspended or debarred from doing business. So like I said, that check was done, but we just didn't have the date it was done. And we need to make sure the date done is before the contract's entered into. So minor, very easy to fix.
Perfect.
Okay. And then on the next page, Minnesota legal compliance, we are required by the state auditor's office to look at their checklists that they put out each year. They're about 25 pages around contracting, bidding, miscellaneous items, disbursements, cash, public indebtedness, things of that nature, all the statutes that you're required to comply with. And during that check, we found no items noted. So good job on that. Any questions on those before we go into the financial results? Okay. So the first graph on page 9, that shows you how many months of expenditures you have in your fund balances. So one thing to keep in mind, the fund balance numbers at the bottom, those are your assigned and unassigned numbers. So anything restricted for grants or any other purpose, those are not in these numbers. So this is more fluid cash that you could spend. So you'll see here, it has been increasing the last 5 years. You're up to about 6 months. The recommendation is no less than 3 to 5 months. And so basically, if you had no revenue coming in, you could go 6 months with, your current spending levels, is what that's saying. Okay. The next slide here shows for the last 5 years, your revenues and expenditures in total all funds, all your governmental funds. So you'll see that revenues did exceed expenditures this year. It was about 14 million. Revenues did increase from last year, 25.5 million, and expenditures increased about 4 million. So I'll go over the details of what makes these up in the next couple slides, but I just wanted to show this snapshot of how it's been doing over the last 5 years. Okay. So page 11 shows the revenues. So you'll see here your major funding sources are taxes, charges for services and intergovernmental. Taxes are going up gradually each year, which is really good to see that the levy is supporting as expenditures increase overall. Intergovernmental, you can see here it did spike up a little. That was more ARPA money was spent this year, as well as $2.3 million was received in public safety aid right at the end of the year. So that'll start being spent now, starting in '24. That is sitting in restricted fund balance currently. Your charges for services did go up quite a bit. That was mainly due to the sheriff contracts going up 15% this year, or in '23. Investment earnings, those went up quite a bit. You'll see they were actually negative last year because the markets were down. This year, they are a positive 8.5 million because at 12/31/23, markets were up and there's a mark-to-market adjustment that needs to happen in the financial statement. So those investments are at market, and that is that is showing.
And really, we only received, after you take that out, about 3.5 million. Just to clarify.
It's more of a fictitious number because it's sitting there. And the miscellaneous is down. That is the catch-all. I know last year you had larger MCIT dividends and a railroad crossing improvement money that came in. But that one fluctuates year to year. As far as expenditures here, you'll see the far left has most of your expenditures that you buckets that you're spending on and capital outlay. So general government spiked up this year because of the ARPA expenditures that you were spending. Public safety, COLA step increases impacted that, as well as those impacted human services as well. Highways and streets, those went down, fluctuates year to year. You know, the road projects that are going on, there were 2 large projects last year that spiked that up. And then lastly on this page, capital outlay you can see has been up quite a bit because of all the construction of the buildings. And this year it was down to 2.5 million because everything basically was wrapped up. As far as the county indebtedness, so you'll see the top line is your GO bonds. So you're paying the payments that are in the schedules, amortization schedules. So that's why it's gradually coming down, as well as the loans. OPEB is the other post-employment benefits and net pension liability. Those are actuarially determined. So those fluctuate based on what those actuaries say and the assumptions that are going into them. So you can see in the bottom there, net pension liability fluctuates year to year based on what PARA's actuary says. And then compensated absences, that's just the vacation and sick time that's accrued at 12/31/23. Any questions before I wrap it up with the last slide? Okay. So just some other items. New this year was GASB 96. So that was around SBITAs, or subscription-based information technology arrangements. So on page 68 of the actual financial statements, it talks about those. And there was about $1 million that were put onto the books for the liability side of that, as well as 5.5 million on the asset side, and that's net. Oracle is in that asset side, so that's why it's so large. And then also the statement of auditing standards was implemented for 143 to 145 this year. So looking ahead to '24, it's gonna be pretty quiet compared to what it has been in the last couple of years. And so it's GASB 101, compensated absences. It really just defines what goes into that compensated absences number and actually can simplify the table that's in the financial statements. Instead of showing additions and deletions, you can have just a net change in there. So like I said, pretty minimal compared to what we've seen in the past. Yeah, overall, I would like to thank the finance team, Heather and her team, Lindsay. I mean, I think with everything that happened, it's great that, you know, we made it. Yes. And they did a great job helping us through it.
I brought some of the team down just so that they could be appreciated as well.
Thank you.
Well, I appreciate all the effort. Finance, I know that every year this is a heavy lift exercise, but it's a necessary exercise. I am always pleased to see that we don't have any major significant deficiencies, so that speaks loudly to the work that all of you do. And it's always a continuous improvement all the time, because even as good as we think we are, there is always new things that we can do, and trying to stay ahead of the game and making sure that we're doing the best reporting and having the best fiscal controls in place. So hats off to finance staff and Clifton Larson Allen on putting together a good financial audit. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
With that, we need authorization and approval to publish the financial statements and the vendor list in the county's official paper.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Holland, second by Commissioner Shane. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on to the last item on today's agenda here is to adopt the resolution and authorizing signatures on the updated tax abatement for the SJB Holding Company LLC. This was a carryover from the previous board meeting based on some modifications and some discussions. It sounds as though the SJB group with the question about the modification to the abatement would still be able to and willing to move forward with said modifications.
Yeah, thank you, Chair and board members. So at the last meeting, the board directed staff to rework this agreement to have a maximum dollar amount of $115,000, which we've done. We had a conversation with Steve Bunn, who's in the audience today and the owner of SJB, and discussed with him that change. And he requested that if we were to make that change, he'd prefer that that money be front-loaded so it wouldn't taper down like we had originally planned. And instead, he would receive 100% of the abatement over the period of time that the abatement was in effect until we reached that $115,000. So that's the way that we've drafted it. And you can see in your packet the amended agreement with the areas highlighted that we changed to reflect that. So with that, we'd be open for questions. And otherwise, as I mentioned, Mr. Bunn is in the audience today if board members have any questions of him.
At this time, is there any comments or questions? I will say, Steve, I appreciate you bringing your business to Wright County. We're excited and we want to be able to work with you. I think you're going to do great things for the community in Montrose and for Wright County holistically. So wishing you all the best here, and we want to be good partners with you here at Wright County in making your business thrive and grow.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'll go ahead and make that motion.
All right, motion by Commissioner Shane,
I'll second that.
second by Commissioner Holland. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. All right, at this point, we have concluded today's agenda with no other business to attend to, and if there's any parting comments?
Yeah,
Yes.
one parting comment, two parting comments. I want to thank the DMV when the network went down, and they worked feverishly to, weight the states, everything that the state was working on. And I think they heard a lot of complaints that Friday. I know Jessie came in on Saturday when the state said it was up and running. She came in on Sunday just to make sure so that she could get information out. We appreciate all that hard work. It's hard to work in the DMV, and it's even harder when their system is down. And then two, thank you to IT. Apparently, our network was lost for a little blip. What was it, Frank? Maybe a minute.
Somewhere around there.
Anyways, they found it, and nobody was none the wiser. They scrambled behind the scenes, and always appreciate our IT people and all the hard work they do behind the scenes.
Thank you. Well, with
Mr.
yes.
Chair, I was just going to point out the last vote on the abatement was a resolution.
Oh,
So again, I think we need to go back and just
very
do a
good
roll
back.
call.
All right. So, we
I'm
have
having deja vu over here.
yes, we had a motion by Commissioner Holland, second by Commissioner Shane on the SJB abatement. That was a resolution vote. So I will start out the vote at aye.
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 All right, resolution passes unanimously. Appreciate you catching that, Clay.
Oh, it was Elizabeth, actually, and she teamed me from the back of the room. So thank her.
All right. Well, with no other business to attend to, we will adjourn today's meeting at 10:14.